Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. In today's Foundation Friday for over 50s, we're going to be taking a look at Wet n Wild PhotoFocus Foundation. This retails for $5.99 at the drugstore for 1 ounce, and it comes in 20 different shades. So I picked this up the other day because you guys have been asking for a review on it, and I always like to deliver what you guys want to see. So this foundation is all about the selfie, a foundation that has been tested under 7 different lighting conditions so that it can give you a matte finish perfection without a filter. At least that's what they claim, would be fabulous for us as well as for the younger gals who are all about the selfie. We're a little bit less about the selfie, but we do like to look good in a picture, and it does become harder the older you get. Oh my gosh. So let's get into the review. The package is a clear glass heavyweight bottle. It comes with a plastic twist-off cap, and it has a spatula kind of dispenser. The ingredients in this one are mainly silicone and water. It also contains glycerin, which is a moisturizing ingredient. It has no drying SD alcohol and no fragrance, but it sure has a smell. This stuff smells like latex paint. Literally, when was the last time you painted a room in your house? That's the smell that this has. But it also doesn't contain any sunscreen either. The one I got is Bronze Beige. It's a medium warm tan, and it was kind of right smack in the middle of the 20 colors. And I usually tend to sit right around the middle. I'm on like the medium to fair side. So these might run slightly light, I feel. As you guys know, I try these on a few different days to really put them through a thorough vetting with a few different products. I like to try them with different sunscreens, different primers, different setting powders. I always use sunscreen because it is the #1 most important anti-aging tool in your anti-aging arsenal. On the first day that I tried this, I used my standard mineral sunscreen, which I have tested thoroughly, and it doesn't interfere with the wear or the performance of the foundation. I applied it with my fingers on one side of my face and a brush on the other side. I didn't use any primer or setting powder on the first day because I want to see how it performs pretty much on its own. A little of this stuff goes a long way. I way over applied on the finger side. I was like, oh my god, where am I going to put this all? So I smeared some of it onto the brush side. Even though I put on a lot, it did seem to blend very nicely with the fingers. I did blot over it with a damp blending sponge just to remove some of the excess. On the brush side, I used my Morphe G6 brush. I didn't really enjoy the brush application as much as I did the finger side. I found the brush was a little smeary. I had a couple of streaks on my forehead and across my cheek. For a liquid foundation, it's actually kind of thick, but it is very easy to blend and it is very easy to build. I definitely preferred the finger application to the brush application. I felt like it went on smoother and more opaque with the fingers. It definitely was kind of on the solid medium, but a little bit sheer so that some of my redness and some of my splotches were still showing through. Even putting on a ton like I did, it still looked really good from a distance. And it looked good close up. I was shocked to see. It didn't settle in my pores. It didn't really settle in my wrinkles. This has a really nice satin matte finish that is actually slightly smoothing to pores and wrinkles. It doesn't really dry back, and it stays tacky for a long, long time, if not forever. Actually, I found that I could still move it around hours and hours later. Since it does stay so tacky, it really grabs onto whatever makeup you're trying to wear over it. So you have to just be a little careful and use a lighter hand with your blush or your bronzer or your contour, because wherever you put it the first time is where it will stick and stay, and you will have to really work to get that to blend out. Alright, so I came back 5 hours later to check in and see how it was wearing, and I gotta say, I was really impressed with the wear. It really wasn't fading on most of my face. It was starting to wear off a tiny bit on the tip of my nose. It did get a little bit shinier, but it wasn't anything that was making me feel and look too much more textury, and it was starting to gather up by the side of my nose. And it was not drying feeling, and it wasn't clinging to dry patches either. So at the 10-hour check-in, there's only the tiniest bit of sliding around and a little breaking up on the surface, but it definitely has good staying power overall. I mean, it was only a little bit worn off on my nose, but otherwise it was mainly in place and mainly still looked good. It had gotten shinier and it was accentuating a lot more texture. Again, it never did dry back, and it felt like sticky and even a little bit itchy. All right, so I was pretty darn impressed with that on day one. So on day two, I do like to try another sunscreen. I used a chemical sunscreen this time. I used a Hard Candy Hydrating Primer Mist, and I put it on with a sponge. The sponge definitely sheared it out quite a bit, and it gave a sheer to medium coverage this time that left, again, some redness and blemishes peeking through that needed concealer. I added a little more foundation by my nose, my forehead, and my cheeks. It is buildable and it blends pretty well with the sponge. I didn't feel like it was as smoothing on the second day. I think it's because of the shine coming through from the sunscreen, and I did set my T-zone. Adding a light dusting of setting powder definitely helped to take down that sticky, tacky feel, and it made it look like velvet. I really loved it after I put on the setting powder. So at the 5-hour check-in, I wasn't as impressed as I was the day before. I didn't think it looked bad, but I didn't think it looked as good either. It was sliding around a little more than it was the day before and wearing off in patches on my nose. Overall, it looked fine. I really wasn't happy with it at the 10-hour check-in. I think that it just didn't mesh well with this particular sunscreen and this particular primer that I wore it with that day. My skin looked very textury, again, especially in my T-zone, cheeks, and on my forehead, but I felt like it looked dry and creased on my lower face and was breaking up and worn off unevenly everywhere else. So today's the third day that I'm wearing it for the review. I decided to forego the sunscreen today because it's blizzarding outside and I am going to be here in my office with the shades pulled. I did use a higher end primer today. I went with Smashbox Photo Finish Pore Minimizing Primer, and I like both the fingers and sponge application. I started off applying it with my fingers and then I just kind of pounced over it with the sponge at the end. I used the It by Pores blush on my cheeks. You know, definitely sticks to the foundation. I used my NYX Wonder Stick like I usually do, just scribbling up here and under my cheeks, a little bit under my jaw. Wherever I put that when I went to blend it, it kind of removed the foundation. What I used for my highlighter today was this Clinique Chubby Stick. I think it's a really, really pretty highlight. I put it here on my cheeks, above my eyebrow, tip of my nose, and on my chin. Where I put it up here and then, you know, went to just blend it in a little bit, again, the makeup was removed. I think that this makeup is a little tricky to work with. You have to be careful with what other products you use with it. Powders will definitely stick to it. Creams don't really work so well because they tend to remove it. Let's try the flash photography. All right, I'm going to just get out my vlogging camera and I'm going to do some footage by natural light. You guys, while I was filming, it stopped blizzarding and started raining. So I'm definitely not going outside. We'll do the check-in inside. I actually have had on the foundation for probably 4.5 hours now. So you can see here where I have that like pink along the edge of my nose. That's where I tried to do the contour and it just made that makeup disappear, you know, when I went to blend it with the brush, poof, they both came off instead of just blending into each other. I really think it's a good looking foundation. You just really have to be careful what other products you use with it and you know, to make sure that you get it blended nicely and that you get it looking good. And what other kind of light do you want to see it in? Here you go. Here it is in crappy kitchen light where everything's all shadowy. Ah, nice yellow kitchen light. Isn't that nice? It looks really smooth and nice in lots of different kinds of light. All right, let's run down the pros and cons. On the pros side are the price, of course, $5.99, that you can apply it with your fingers or a blending sponge. It has a lovely satin matte finish that is slightly smoothing to pores and wrinkles, that it doesn't settle into pores, that there's only minor settling into wrinkles. It's fairly long wearing on its own, and it doesn't get too shiny. On the con side, there is that funky smell. There's the way that it stays tacky all day and is like a magnet for dust bunnies to your face, that it does break down by the end of the day and look more shiny and make your skin look more textured by the 9 to 10 hour mark. So I'd say that the pros definitely outweigh the cons on this one. This is a really great foundation to give a try if you're in the market for something from the drugstore. This is probably the best foundation that I've ever tried from the drugstore, so this is going to go fairly high on the list of all the foundations I've tried. It's not going to knock my Chanel Perfection Lumiere Velvet out of the Holy Grail spot, and it's probably not even going to break into the top 5 for me, but it was still better than a certain high-end foundation that I tried last week that was 10 times the price of this. So that's it for the Foundation Friday for today, everybody. I hope you found it helpful and informative. Thanks always for your time. I really appreciate your watching, and I hope you have a great day. So take care, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.